Rebecca of Studio Plum.
And I'm Shaun of Renstead Interiors. We're interior designers
Turned internet friends.
Turned real life friends.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
We're not that hot.
Or that young.
Every week, we'll be spilling the tea on how a new generation of interior designers can run their businesses.
Welcome to the club.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast. This is Shaun Surha.
And this is Rebecca Plum.
Thank you so much for joining us for this meeting. We are super grateful to have you here listening. And thank you to everyone for the amazing response to our first episode last week.
It was kind of crazy. Yes, thank you. That is very heartwarming and encouraging as we're doing this on our own.
This week, we are diving into all things One Room Challenge.
Yeah.
I think we've both got a lot to share and to say about our experiences with the One Room Challenge. And before we get too deep into that, we want to start with this week's Fizzle and Sizzle.
So I guess my fizzle is I'm stressing about a few key sponsors in my One Room Challenge. There's just a lot up in the air with supply chains and the world of manufacturing. I have a partner that may pull out because their production is closed, which makes sense, but also they're kind of a key piece of the room. So I'm kind of holding tight on that, hoping for the best. And my sizzle in the same vein is I got a shitload of lighting in the mail. And I can't wait. I can't wait to roll it out. So
and you just sprayed the heck out of it with Lysol while it decontaminated in your house.
I did. Lysol'd it all.
It makes sense right now for the partners and sponsors to need some time to adapt and figure out what's next for them. And I mean, yeah, sure, it's stressful, but I wish they weren't.
What's going on.
Yeah, I it's just a tough time, so we're just trying to give everyone patience. And at least all the lighting is there, though, because I know that's a central element of any design, but I know in your design, it's really important. So I'm excited to see some of it.
Sizzling on that.
My fizzle and sizzle this week were a little bit weird. On a personal level, my fizzle is that my husband and I were FaceTiming with my 3.5-year-old nephew. And while we were FaceTiming with him, he was asking when he's going to see us and when we're coming over and that he missed us, which ripped our hearts out. And I actually had to hand the phone to my husband and have a second to compose myself because he could see us. And it's just really hard because they live not a mile from us. That's one of the reasons why we live where we are, is so we could be close to them. And I'm sure there are a lot of other families who are apart right now too. It's just challenging because all we want to do is hang out with each other. But we have healthcare workers in each sides of our family. And so we need to kind of isolate from one another just to reduce any likelihood right now. So that was hard this week. Because I'm still isolating at home, though, and this week was beautiful in Southern California, I got outside. I took the covers off of my outdoor furniture. I got out into my courtyard and got the cushions out. And it was really nice to set up my laptop out there. I have a new Spotify playlist that made me jam out outside.
Oh, I gotta download that one. I keep forgetting. We'll link it in the show notes.
Yeah, it's 1960s French pop, if Wes Anderson and Quentin Tarantino were at a bistro, kind of it's kind of funky. It's kind of fun. It's a little weird. Maybe I'll learn some French while listening to it. I don't care, but it's kind of that fun energy of the 1960s, and I needed a little jolt of that this week.
I'm here for that. Actually, my fizzle part 2 is that I should be in San Francisco about to board a plane to Paris. Speaking of
That's right.
Not learning French right now.
That was going
So
to be spring break.
yeah, I'm trying not to dwell. Everyone's losing out on stuff.
Yes. So we, that's just the fizzle and sizzle. So we can wallow a little bit and then celebrate some other cool things and just keep ourselves grounded and in perspective every week. I think I'm ready to just like tear apart the whole huge concept that is one room challenge, though.
Let's do it. It's the only thing we have to look forward to right now.
I mean, there's lots of stuff to look forward to, but yes, that is immediately on the horizon.
And there's
Rebecca,
dates that we can depend on, hopefully.
Yeah, they are like hard line dates that we can work with and have in front of us right now. So why don't we start by talking about what is the one room challenge?
The one room challenge, it was started by Linda Weinstein about 10 years ago, I believe. And she started it as a challenge. She's a designer who wasn't getting her own projects done at home. And she started a challenge with some internet friends to do a room together at the same time in their individual homes. So everyone would post every week with the update progress of the room and then reveal on the same day. So it kind of became like this holiday, like one room challenge reveal day it's like an internet holiday for people who love to follow design.
And it's huge. There's so many people.
Tons, yeah. So over the years, of course, it's grown. She still invites 20 featured designers to join. And then anybody can participate as a guest, which is what Shaun and I have done in the past. I have completed 3 rooms as a guest designer. Shaun has done 1.
Yeah, last fall's one room challenge was my first as a participant, which was, why did I wait so damn long? Like,
I know, I don't know why I did either. We just weren't ready.
Yeah.
Because part of it is just like, we'll get into this, but you don't have to, but it's more fun if you're social with other participants and followers while you're doing it.
Yes.
So this season, I was super fortunate to be asked to be one of the featured designers.
Woo-woo.
It's been like a major goal of mine, and I woke up one morning, checked my Instagram for the first thing, as you do. And
laying in bed, scrolling the gram.
Still dark. I'm like, I got a lot of like notifications on my phone. And I found out with the rest of the world that I was tagged and invited to be a featured. So it was amazing. That was probably right before Christmas. And yeah, so it officially was supposed to start April 1st, but it has been postponed due to the virus situation and quarantine.
Thanks, Rona.
Yeah. So I think it's a good idea, but we're now starting May 6th.
Right.
2020.
And I think that's good to talk about, that there are two challenge campaigns each year, one in the spring and one in the fall. So normally they're in April and October. I think what I really like about the one room challenge is that it really is not about competing with other designers. As much as everyone wants to have a gorgeous, beautiful, amazing space, it's not about competing with one another. It is about that social piece, like encouraging each other.
And it's not a contest. So that's something people always misunderstand. There's no winner.
Yes.
The only like maybe sub level of that is like being asked to be a featured designer, but even that has a lot of nuance and ways that I think the selection process goes. So,
right.
And I am not privy to it, but
and that would be that could be big for a lot of designers or home participants who are feeling like this was just something fun that they wanted to work on to enhance their home environment and get rid of that awful space that they just don't feel happy with anymore.
And most importantly, have a deadline.
Yeah, it's set up in a way that it makes it really achievable to break it down into each week. And technically, you have 6 weeks officially.
It's confusing. So week one, so every Wednesday if you're featured, Thursday if you're a guest, you post an update on your blog, or now they allow for Instagram only posts. If you started your room on week one post day, you would only have 5 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like they're set up in arrears, right? Am I using that term right?
Yep.
So
You got it.
So your post day is your week in review. So you should start the week before.
Right.
Or whenever. Like a lot of people are starting now. There's no reason why you don't have to do it real time.
And I think that's good because you look at, if you haven't done the one room challenge and you're looking at it, it can feel intimidating because you're seeing people completing entire bathroom and kitchen projects. And you're like, hold on, 5 weeks? Like, I can't even get a contractor to do that in 5 weeks. So yes, there is sometimes a lot of ramping up that happened before the one room challenge actually kicked off. A lot of participants have done permitting and ordering like stuff that's going to take a long time, like windows and doors or cabinets. I mean, if you are going to take on a big space, which you don't have to, it definitely behooves you to plan to get a lot of stuff done before the week one kickoff, so you're in a good place to make progress. Or if there's delays, it just relieves some stress to have some stuff done early.
Definitely.
Do you get done early? Do you do a lot of stuff early?
I tend to do it in pretty much real time. Our first project was our kitchen, but it was just like a slap lipstick on a pig kind of a kitchen reno. We didn't move cabinets. We didn't get new cabinets.
Mostly cosmetic.
Mostly cosmetic. I mean, it was involved, but it was doable.
I love the tile in that room that you did.
Thank you.
We could talk about that, but it's just like so graphic and appealing and really cool.
And I think we started maybe 2 weeks before the official.
Okay.
I think we demoed 2 weeks before. That's about where we've done demo, like 2 weeks before. I like to be in real time, just it helps me like feel connected, but there's definitely things this time that I'll be getting ahead of.
Right.
Hopefully.
I mean, you've done a few more challenges than I have. You've done 3, right? And I have 1 under my belt. And I just felt a really big outpouring of support from other people, even from people who are just observing through social media, that they're kind of rooting you on. Hearing from other participants and designers is, of course, very reassuring. I mean, I wouldn't have met you if not for the one room challenge. So I count that as a really great component, that you can develop some true friendships and commiserate with each other as you're trying to hit some deadlines. But at the end of it, there's also some great opportunities. The one room challenge's official media partner is Better Homes and Gardens. And so there are some opportunities for potential press, and press partners or features are chosen, and you were chosen from the guest participants of your last challenge, right?
Yes, Better Homes and Gardens makes 2 selections for guests, like kind of bringing guest participants into featured. So I was one of the 2 who were chosen by the digital team at BHG. Yeah, and Linda talks about that a lot in like her support emails, that there are a lot of press outlets that kind of like troll these rooms.
But troll in a good way. Yeah.
In a good way.
They're not going to drag you on social media for something you did in the room. But
No, but they go and kind of look at all the reveals, and kind of like I've gotten pulled into like best outdoor spaces in this season's one room challenge, like little roundups like that.
Yeah.
And so the key to that is good photography. That's the press aspect. You have to have good photography to get
Totally.
chosen for that.
Yeah. Especially now, so much of interior design and shelter media is online, and you really want your photos to shine. It's curious this season because we're, of course, hoping that we're going to be able to get everything lined up and organized in a way that um, we can have photographers in our homes safely at the end of the challenge. I'm sure there will be a lot of things that are different as we're navigating self-isolation and social distancing. Um, what else do you think is going to be different as you're planning this challenge?
So one of the big major amazing aspects of being a feature designer is Linda works really hard to curate a group of official sponsors who will support the feature designers. Basically, we have access to pitch them with our projects. Nothing's guaranteed. No one's just sending us stuff. It's still a lot of pitching and kind of finding the right fit.
Yeah, because they want to make sure that your project helps highlight the things that they can offer to everybody else.
And they're looking for different things. So the sponsors have their own reasons for wanting to participate. One of the biggest is that they get amazing styled photography for their products.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really expensive to produce that on the in-house side. So if you are the company, to get a range of styled products for your range of styled photos for your products, I mean, that's thousands of dollars and employees and
Yeah.
hiring
And
photographers and stylists. Like, it's a lot.
I know when I buy stuff, whether it's on Amazon or wherever, if I buy stuff, I always love to see the pictures that people post of what it looked like in an actual place, because not that I don't trust vendors, but even with our like trade interior design furniture and accessory sources, I would rather see someone who took a picture in a showroom or at Las Vegas Market, and then that way I know kind of like in quotes what it really looked like. And I
Well, who
think that
knows
the
who's
photos of
color
our
correct?
projects look like that. I
Yeah,
know.
and who knows who's color
Photoshop is
correcting
not your
these
friend.
batch.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't want a dresser to show up to a client and then it's completely different than the way they photographed it. So it's nice that vendors, that's sort of what the vendors get in trade-off is these are used in quote real spaces, an actual home, and they're designed into a space, whether it's accessories or tile like in your kitchen or something. Like, we can see what it really looks like. And I do think that a lot of homeowners are looking through One Room Challenge for inspiration, and they're seeing what other people's homes have been able to accomplish.
Yeah, so it's a way to share actual product with the followers and the audience, but the brands themselves get these project photos and press opportunities. So what's going to be different is that, all that said, it feels a little bit different having a lot of sponsors and amazing product just coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, many people are suffering like some financial stresses right now and a lot of uncertainty. Honestly, my household included. So it just feels like kind of a privileged thing to be having
Totally.
a new fancy lighting that I wouldn't necessarily have done otherwise. But again, like, these have been months in the making.
Yeah, I mean,
And
you were starting
I'm
back
not
in
turning it down.
January.
Oh, yeah.
And some of these are lined up for other designers or outside of One Room Challenge. They're spending the better part of a year in advance planning certain collaborations and things. And that's a whole other part of our industry that I'm I think there's a whole lot more to it than just here's some free stuff. There's definitely more, and we
Oh,
can go
yeah.
into talking about that. But I I'm with you on the feeling. There is a sense of being really fortunate to have worked on these things, but that there are actual responsibilities that you have to sponsors. And so maybe we talk about that after we hear how like your first couple one room challenges went. I'll talk about my first experience. You're sort of like a seasoned vet now, and
People have
I'm
done like so
I still
many.
am. I mean, I'm still digesting my first one room challenge before I was even sure that I wanted to sign up for the second one. So what was
Yeah.
your like what was your maybe your most recent experience like in fall 2019?
So fall 2019, we did these utility spaces in the back of our house. So kind of the back entrance we made into a little mudroom space, completely redid the guest bathroom back there, and kind of redid the laundry closet. Um, so my dad has helped me with all of these. My husband is not so into the DIY world. He's like, I'd rather work overtime and then take that money to pay somebody else to do it. Um,
Yeah.
that's he gets no joy or
Plus, he
feeling
probably
of
wants the
accomplishment.
time back to himself instead of having to commit all of his off time to that.
It's still the time. It's just how he would rather spend the time. Yeah, he doesn't. It's not like fun or
You're not going to be like Chris Loves Julia, where you're both doing projects together,
oh God.
or like Sarah and Room for Tuesday. You're both not going to be doing these together and loving
Uh,
each other. Well,
no.
not that I'm sure they have their moments too. Not all couples work well together, but I don't
No, we
know.
can't. We can't even hang a picture on the wall without some kind of issue.
That's actually Shaun and I. We don't. He does not. Yeah, he doesn't
So,
get involved.
but my dad and I get along really great during these challenges. Of course, we have like our own like father-daughter challenges of life and family, but like honestly, we don't fight at all or have any issues during these. Like, I think we're both. This brings our similarities online, and we're both kind of in it for the same reason. We both get like jazzed about like problem solving and the pivot, and I can
He
sketch something
likes
out.
this stuff too,
Oh
like
yeah, and he has
problem
like
solving
oh
and
yeah, he has like
engineering.
an engineering brain. So like I keep telling him like there's a specific thing I'm trying to do in our room right now, and like go back, go back and figure it out. Like
Yeah.
I know we can do this because I've seen it done. So, but how can we do it with our budget and time constraints and tools? So, yeah, so it's been a really fun time with him. And again, like you were saying, I've met so many people from it. Like at first, when I first started doing it, I'm like, I don't know. I'm just gonna keep the bar really low. I'm just gonna be real about it and show it how it is, which
Yeah.
people like. I mean, people like that. I think people
I
like
think
to like live through your project without living through your mess. So
oh yeah. They
they
get to
feel
stare,
like
but they don't have to like walk through drywall dust every day of the
exactly. But
challenge.
they feel like they are like people tell me I'm emotionally invested in this more than I should be. It's really
I,
sweet.
I think that's the like rooting each other on is people want to see it happen. And I mean, you do a good job of balancing between like DIY, but also there's a level of like finish or quality. And I think like you said, your dad helps a lot with some of that. Um, and I think that's kind of one of the advantages of seeing designers work on their own houses. And of course, there are plenty of home enthusiasts and design enthusiasts who are not necessarily running a separate design business with this, but you're kind of good at bridging that gap between this is what you could probably accomplish on your own, and this is where you might need some extra help from a certain carpenter, or maybe your electrician has to come in and help you with some of these things that are maybe out of the DIY scope. And
Yeah, and I
that's
think
realistic
that's
for most homeowners.
and the challenge that I do, like, we're working with our own realistic budgets, which is
Mm-hmm.
really low. Um, so on my own projects, I am like really trying to figure out how can I make this happen. Like, we put IKEA cabinets in our space last time and they turned out great. I could just worked within those limitations to make it
Totally.
look as high end as I could and flow with our house.
Yeah, I think it's good to keep a balance of what makes sense for the way your family lives in the house right now, the way that you're planning for things. And there is a lot to be said for, while something may not be a forever finish, for it to be good for a really solid amount of time, for like, you know, your family to be able to use it and have a nicer space. It just, there's something rewarding about, I'm sure, like you've talked about being able to walk in your back door and just have this totally different energy when you come in after redoing that space than
Oh
you
my
did
God.
before. And so
I
that's
hated
what,
it.
it's like stressful, and it causes anxiety just to walk into these spaces that cause you a headache.
Yeah, because last time I was gonna do our bedroom, and then at the lot, like literally the week before we were gonna start, I said like, nope. Actually, no. Last time I wasn't gonna do it. I was actually not gonna do fall because I'm like, we had done our backyard. I was tired. It was expensive, and then I had this like epiphany of what could happen in the back. I'm like, all right, rally up, everybody! Like, we're going for it.
I would love to hear from anyone who's listening if you have done the one room challenge and done that same exact thing where you're like, I'm done, I'm over it, I'm exhausted from the last one, and then you got sucked back in like Godfather status. Every
You
time you're
just
out,
can't
they
quit,
pull you
you.
back in. And in fact, my I would not be doing my second round coming up right now if you hadn't just been like, well, just do it, when we were at Vegas Market in January. And part of that is there's that bug in my head that's like, well, I want to get this stuff done and maybe I'm not, and the budget and planning for it and working with clients while I'm doing that is sometimes a hassle because I will always tend to put my house after what I'm doing for my clients because it's like something's got to give. So I'm glad now that I have a little bit more time and flexibility to work on it, given what's happening with Camp COVID. But thinking back to my first one room challenge, I did my laundry room, which was just this like awful dumping ground in our house. We'll link to each of our rooms in the show
Oh
notes
yeah.
because I think it's good to see where we started, that it is one of those designers, they're just like us moments, because I just threw all sorts of crap in my laundry room before, and the shelves were a mess and they weren't organized and nothing was put away. And I like that I started with a small space for the first one room challenge because it was digestible. It's like a 5x7 size room. Um, with between like, I did have our electrician come in for a couple things, but that was not hard to navigate. I had a handyman who helped with some stuff because I don't have a whole garage full of tools. And Shaun and I are relatively handy, but it was nice to have somebody come in with, you know, the right tools to cut things with really clean and sharp lines. I did wainscoting in our laundry room. Um, One big takeaway that I had from it was I did start ahead of schedule on my room because I was so nervous about not being able to keep up. And then in retrospect, I realized I could have kept up okay with the 6 weeks, even if I had started, because it was a small space without a ton of elements in it. Um, I also gave enough time for my professional photographer to come in and turn around the images. So usually I
Yeah.
like to give a photographer about a 2-week time span, and a lot of them will say that. And that might be a good topic for a future episode to talk about photography. But I
There's
like
no
to give
2
them,
weeks happening here.
I'd like to give them some time to edit it without being a complete rush job. And some of them will charge more if they rush. So um, I learned from that challenge. I'm super happy with it. I love it. It's a very classic finish that really just fits with our house. And I was able to find ways to save money and get like some like remnant slabs from like a countertop guy. And there's some really cool ways to make it look nice, but still not have to spend a ton of money. Something that I don't think I could do for clients because they're not necessarily going to pay me for my time to go find remnant slabs, because then it's more expensive than if they had just bought it like right away off a
Exactly.
shelf. So for me, I'm willing to like spend my own, time, whatever free time I actually have, hunting down stuff like this, where it wouldn't make sense to be, clients paying me to go find the cheapest deal because it costs more in the long run. So
Right.
um, I think a big takeaway for me, and I think you've seen this and your rooms definitely speak to it, is that response to spaces from the one room challenge is super engaged when there is color and pattern, DIY. Wallpaper is like, everybody loves some damn wallpaper. And you don't have to be super ambitious to get all of that, but if you're encouraged by the response from others, or you're thinking about feature opportunities, if you're thinking of press or publishing or things like that, it's usually going to be color, pattern, movement, you being super involved versus just, oh, I went out and I bought all this stuff and I put it on a shelf. I think readers and homeowners, and if you're publishing, they want to see how you were involved in helping that all come together.
Totally. I think the challenge for me, like putting the challenge in the challenge, is the time limit. Usually budget constraints on our own homes. And I challenge myself to think a lot more about it, especially in the lens of working on my own home. With clients, I feel like it's really easy to see big picture, big ideas like, oh, this is going to make such a big change. But in my
Yeah.
own house, like either you tend to play it safe because you're playing with your own money, or you just think smaller because you've been staring at these walls.
Yeah.
So
Oh, I'm
it's,
feeling this right now. Like,
yeah, so you're like, well, it's better than it was, so let's just slap some white paint on it and call it a day. But the challenge here, I think, for me is, okay, let me see how I can push myself with design, with DIY, with how much can I do in this room without being weird. Like, it's not Trading Spaces in the 80s where there's like hay on the walls or weird shit like that,
80s?
but
Girl, how long do you think it's been?
90s?
Early aughts.
Really?
Late.
Oh god,
Yeah.
it feels like, I remember they'd put like they'd glue feathers on the walls.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, was
this
that Hildy or Hilda? Hildy?
probably just
Damn,
stuff
we're
you're
gonna
not
get we're
gonna
gonna get crap from the fandom.
but
By the
it's
way,
not
editor's note, I recognize that Christopher Lowell was not on HGTV and was on the Discovery Channel. Thank you, everybody.
busted. Fact check.
If you are totally lost on what I'm talking about, listen to episode 1. Yes, I effed up. So sorry. Oh well.
I'm
But
sure
yeah,
people are losing sleep about that.
I
But
Christopher Lowell might be.
so, like, the point with that is I think they just designed for camera only and like wow
Yeah.
factor and not functionality or the rest of the architecture of the home or lifestyle.
Yeah.
So all
But
that has to
I I feel like if you do something a little courageous in your own home, there's no client to get upset about it and to go, oh my God, this is awful. I couldn't live with this. But on the opposite side of that, it also has the potential to show people, hey, remember when I recommended teal wainscoting and you thought I was nuts? Like, I did it and it turned out freaking awesome. And I think that can also bolster the confidence of some potential clients in your case or in others to see, hey, this isn't that crazy. It can look really good.
And it's hashtag it's just paint. Like
It's
some of
just
that stuff, it's
paint.
just paint. Yeah, I actually got a DM before we recorded about somebody who was going bold with some cabinetry and she was really nervous about it, but
Just
wanted just
do
some
it.
encouragement. Just
Just
do
do
it.
it. And I'm not on Trend Watch, but color is coming back in really thoughtful and cool ways, whether it's a vanity cabinet or a built-in dresser or what. Like, I think there's some cool ways to do it. So one room challenge is one of the ways to like almost trend watch on our own and go, I feel like this is going to be really cool. And you know what? It's your own house. If it doesn't work out and a couple years down the road, you're going to paint it again. Paint's not the worst thing to have to redo.
Right. I think that's something you and I talk about a lot too, because we're not the type that are going to be married to any one look for more than 5 years. Like,
I'm probably going to paint it again anyway.
right. But I think some people want to just set it and forget it for 25 years, and maybe they do live in a home and they're fine with that. I, for one, won't. So I might as well
Yeah.
be bold with my choice.
Yeah, sometimes after I paint a room, as much as I love it, I'm thinking, oh man, next time I'm
What's
gonna,
next?
and then, yeah.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, my husband is like, shitting
Oh,
bricks because he's like totally annoyed that we just did it. And I'm already talking about the next idea.
100%. We're gonna
Um,
have to have them on to talk about this.
and I will say, I think that they'll have some thoughts on that, and it's good to hear. I'm sure they're not the only ones, but something that also adds to not the bravery, but the courage to do different things is that there are sponsorship opportunities or collaboration opportunities involved in the One Room Challenge that gives us access to things that we would not normally be able to do, that may not be within our normal budgets. And I think that it's important to talk about for everyone listening, because you have had collaborators involved with some of your previous projects. I have some collaborators that I've lined up with for this coming One Room Challenge. And truly, it's things that probably wouldn't have fit in my budget, or I wouldn't be able to have planned them right now all at the same time. I probably would have like trickled in some of these things that I have fallen in love with and
Yeah.
reached out about over time.
Yeah. So the sponsor collaboration game is, I didn't start doing it until my first one. And I was terrified and just like little old me, like I'm not a big
Like, who
giant
would want to work with
blogger.
me?
Yeah. And I've just since learned kind of what I was saying before. There's great value in it for them, especially if you're delivering high quality assets for them to use. Like, I come from a marketing background. I've been on the in-house side, and as a graphic designer is what I was. To be delivered like 5 to 10 brand new photos of your product is like Christmas. Like, it's key
Totally.
for so much, especially like with this need to like drive the social media machine every day. So
Well, they're not publishing in magazines anymore. They're not buying ad space anymore because like no one's really reading paper media as much. And so unless they're these really big companies, a lot of them depend on social media as a way to reach a potential client or customer.
exactly. So my big thing, I've kind of given the spiel to a lot of design friends, Shaun included, is just ask. Like, that's the biggest thing I've learned is put your toolbox together. Like, be professional, get your press kit together, tell them what's in it for them, not just what you're, don't come across as just gimme, gimme, gimme. I mean, it's a lot about, to me, it's a win-win if it's done right. Actually, a win-win-win, so the audience wins, gets something out of it too. So get your brand kit together and just ask. Like, the hardest part in all of it is finding the right person to talk to.
Yeah.
And if it's a brand that you already use, which is pretty much most who I've worked with, it's so easy to find the connection of value.
Right. And I
And the
think
worst they can do is say no. Like, just shrug it off. Like, it's no
yeah,
one's
if it's
beef.
not a good fit for them, then they'll let you know, and it's not personal. And um I think one thing that I took away from when you and I had talked about it was about, it's not just flailing about asking anybody and everybody for something. It's, does this make sense with the project I'm planning? Is this something I would want? Um, there can be sort of a negative connotation out there of, oh, sponsored content, it just means someone like sends, these sunglasses to some, influencer, and they don't actually like them, or they break, or they're cheap, or whatever. And I've I've really spent a lot of time focusing in on, are these companies that I actually would want to work with? Do I believe in what they do? Have I worked with them previously where I've, selected things for clients? And now I'm just super excited to have something of theirs in my own home. And I think that that is important for a designer to consider when they start reaching out to a company. Is, it's not just about, can I get free stuff? This is, I think, important to get, not to overuse the term, but the authenticity of, who is this, a brand I believe in? Are these people I believe that I would want someone to work with? And I always think about it in the same way before I like even bring up a contractor's name to a client. I'm like, is this someone I want to be associated with if something goes on?
Right.
And I kind of took the same approach when I was thinking about some materials or things that I wanted in my space. Was, is this a company I really feel confident that other people would want to hear from, that they would like what they offer, the quality is good? um, I I think in that way that I'm kind of like this millennial unicorn a little bit, that I look at the ethics of a company,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at who they represent. And certainly I'm in a place where I could walk away from someone if I don't like what they're bringing. But I think that's important for designers to consider it, regardless of whether it's sponsored content or whether it's going into a client's home. Is this a company that you're going to like to work with when they have to put stuff into your client's living room or
Totally.
install it?
Yeah, something that I read in one of the One Room Challenge documents is that it's a digital show house, which made a lot of sense, that each of our rooms are showcasing different product and companies and talent, and it's, whether they're sponsored pieces or not, like, it's an amazing, everyone's putting their best foot forward. So it's
Yeah,
it's just a really great way to highlight and test companies. So I mean, a couple of the people I'm working with this time are brands that I'm testing in my own home before I sell them to my client.
totally. I feel like there is sort of this like mythology around collaboration partners or sponsored things, and usually it's around, they're giving you a discount, or they're giving you something for free. But that doesn't mean that these rooms don't cost us money out of our pockets. And so that's, I think, important for a lot of potential people to understand about this, is that there's still an investment. In our case, for the One Room Challenge, we're still shouldering the majority of what's involved in getting these spaces finished, and getting them to the completed line. It's not that all of this is completely paid for by somebody else,
No. Yeah.
by any stretch of the imagination. I still start my One Room Challenge last time and this time like I would for a client, where I put together my project brief. I create my budget spreadsheet just like I would for a client. And we start with preliminary. I go through my concept stages. In this case, my husband is sort of my client, and I present to him what I'm looking at and make sure I have his kind of okay to move ahead with
Blessing.
it, get his feedback if he likes something or not. I'm not making the decisions in a void. And I had already created pretty much the whole concept for my room before even reaching out to anyone about whether they were interested in working with me. And I think part of that helped because I was able to show them, potential partners, what it would look like with them being involved. And it wasn't me forcing a square peg into a round hole.
Right. And it helps for you to know, and I think it helps to have the exact ask ready for them. So it's
Right.
like, hey, would you consider sponsoring me? And they're like, for what? Are you going to ask me for $50,000 of things or just one item?
Yeah.
So
It's got
yeah,
to
I
be
did the same
interesting for
thing.
them.
And you want them to get excited, like because they're your client at that point too. So I did the same thing where I had my design plan pitch ready, or it's part of my pitch, so they could envision their product in the room, know how it was going to be featured, and see like what level of designer and partner they're dealing with.
Totally. It
I want to
does.
make sure I look professional, like I'm going to hold up my end of the bargain. I'm not this fly by night sketchy person. Like it's a
And
lot of trust on their end.
that's where the photographs, your past work, if you can highlight all of that stuff, that's so important for them to see, because you want everything you've done up till that point to speak for itself and to get them excited about it. And they may have something that they really want to highlight that's new for their company, or a new offering, a new product. uh you know, they want to have some flexibility in those arrangements to see if they can showcase something that's special for them around the timeline that you're going to be revealing your room.
Yeah, the sophisticated ones will tell you, like,
This is what we're doing.
this is what we're doing. How can we work this into the angle of the story you're telling? And it is a lot about telling stories. And I think having a successful challenge on social media involves being able to sell the story and the struggles and the laughs. I mean, there's always goofy stuff that can happen in my projects, at least.
I just like watching videos lately and seeing your daughter trying to like touch your face and like running around trying to get attention. But that's just life in Camp COVID. So
like, why can't they keep 6 feet away? I swear. Her and the dog are.
You should get her that plastic bubble that you inflate. Have you seen that online?
The like hamster ball thing?
Yeah. Oh my God, yes. I would kill to see Desmond and Cecily in a hamster ball running around your backyard.
Oh, I should totally get that.
I would. That is quality content right there. Anyway.
Okay, so how do people sign up?
They need to go to oneroomchallenge.com. And before you even get to that point, you need to consider if you have a website and you have a blog portion, cool, you're set. If you aren't ready to set all of that up and you don't want to have a website and a blog portion, and that's a lot for you to do right now, that's cool. They have an Instagram only option. So you'll be doing your post on a specific schedule, posting probably a lot to your stories, to your feed in between reveal posts, probably a lot of carousel posts in your Instagram so you can show people what's going on.
And take good before pictures. That's like rookie mistake number 1. I have done it. And you're so pissed at the end when you realize I didn't take this angle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you want to think about when you're getting into it, matching the same angle from the before and the after and being able to show us side by side, because people love that. Like, a before and after is amazing.
It's
It's
what
just,
people live for. Yeah.
people love that. Also, if we're just going to be real here, I'm going to jump in with a really quick just stop, which is a segment we will be planning for future posts, or for future episodes. But just stop is when you see something and you just got to put it out there. People need to just stop. If you are on Instagram and you are taking photos and you are posting before and afters, you need to just stop posting the before photo before the after photo in your carousels. We want to see the after photo, the glitz, the glamour, the realness before we see the ugly before photo. That is,
So like in
do
the
not
feed,
start with your ugly, messy laundry room as the first photo. No, just stop.
just stop putting before photos in your feed, basically.
Correct. Give us what we're here to see, which is the pretty part, and then tell people, swipe to see the before. We want to see the pretty one first. Okay. So
That's
we
true.
will have future just stops, but I couldn't let that one pass.
um,
So
okay, well, we are encouraging, there's still time if you're listening now to sign up. We encourage everyone to do it.
the
Again, it
start
can
date was
be
postponed to May
May
6th.
6th.
You still have time.
You can just use what you have, be super creative. There's no rules around what you post or what you do. It's
Yeah.
totally up to you.
Do like
Just
a
tell the
closet
story.
or a office, or, I mean, pick a space you think is achievable for you
And I will
now.
say my biggest tip or reason for doing it for myself was if you're someone who knows you should be showing your face more on your Instagram stories, but you're hesitant to do it because you don't have time, you don't know what to talk about, this is the perfect excuse and way to get used to it. That's why I did it in the beginning. And once I started just showing up in my robe, drinking coffee in the morning with no makeup on, there's no like hesitation about if something comes to mind, share
I
it.
mean, if I'll answer the door for the Amazon guy in my morning routine, haggard look,
Why
I mean,
not
I'm not trying to
thousands of
hide.
strangers?
I'm not trying to hide that from all the thousands of you online either. I mean, this is literally, I woke up like this. So,
I mean, I try to pull it together a little bit more, but yeah. So basically, it just gives you some comfort. It's awkward to just hold your phone up and talk to it when you haven't made a habit of doing that.
yes.
So it does like make you just get used to it. It lowers the barrier,
Yeah.
and
And
people
this,
like it. People like it. Show us your face.
yeah, especially if you're a designer, it's important to know that potential clients are much more likely to want to work with you and feel connected to you and trust you to come into their home if they've seen you and they feel comfortable with you, and all your videos don't feel like uber produced and scripted and planned. They really do want to see who the person is that they could potentially work with and collaborate with on a project in their own home. So it's
Yeah, this
super
isn't the
important.
Wizard of Oz. Like, you gotta like put yourself out there. You decide how much you want
Yeah.
to share, of course, but I think it's really important to
Show
get
them
your
who you are.
personality. Yep.
Yeah. And I think a good motivator for this specific one room challenge is that, above all, right now, so many of us are looking for our homes to be a place where we feel safe, where we can heal, where we can collect some restorative energy because we're there a lot. Um, and that, more than any other challenge time frame, really lines up with what's going on right now in the world. So we'd love it if some of you were feeling more encouraged to sign up to tell us about it, because we'd love to hear about your
Please.
spaces.
Yes, do it. Okay, so are we going to go into our first listener question?
I am stoked that we had a listener email us a question after the first podcast. And I don't know if this will be every show, but I mean, we had one, so it felt like we could tackle it here on this show.
Okay, do you want to ask?
Yeah, so Claire writes, how do you navigate being a designer in the age of Pinterest? I've been a designer for about 5 years and it seems more prevalent than ever. For example, a client will find a picture of a bathroom and say, I want that bathroom. And I want to make my clients happy, but I don't think it's a designer's job to copy another designer's work. I also want more creative freedom than that. I'm usually an assertive person, but I don't think I've handled these interactions well in the past. I feel like I need a more proactive approach to this. Please help. So, Claire.
Good question. I'll start. I ask, so I know a lot of designers share Pinterest boards with their clients. I ask them to share me theirs, and I get kind of like a feel for what they're pinning. But then I make my own private board. And from that, I cull it down to the direction I'm going to go with. Even if I don't want to use any of their pins, I usually try to use at least one.
So I saw what you did and it's all garbage.
Let's just go a completely different direction. What I try to do is just at least acknowledge through the use of one of their pins and pull an aspect of it. And I think the same, so at least they feel heard, and hopefully wow them with the new direction and the fresh idea to the point that they forgot they even wanted the other thing.
Totally.
And I do it with my own projects, like especially this one room challenge. I am going heavy into inspiration world. I'm really pushing myself to try some new things. And it's all about just like distilling, okay, what about this image of a hotel room am I really responding to? What about this do I want to bring and translate into my space? I'm not going to copy it, but I find the element that I keep coming back to, and I try to bring that in. And I think it's the same with clients, is there's something about it, whether it's if it's just that the room has amazing lighting and they have no natural light in their room, like we're going to have to resell this idea. But if it's like a bold tile, then we can translate that. Like, what is it? Like pinpoint.
And I think that's something that I find myself asking a lot to clients when they prepare or they like send me a link to a board when, you know, after they're already brought in, I'm already for sure being brought into a project, is I say, you can send me pins, but you're going to have to tell me what is it about that you want me to pay attention to. It's not just the whole room. And I do preface that with clients. I said, don't just send me a room and say everything. What is it? Is it the windows? Is it the lighting? Is it the this? And there's a lot to be said for the psychology of design, of guiding your client to kind of how the process works its best, which is saying, I'm not here to give you exactly someone else's room. Ethically, as a designer, that's kind of a line that I'm not going to cross. You know, that other designer worked really hard on that. And, you know, as much as you're finding joy in that design, that's someone else's beautiful home now. And let's
Intellectual
find a way to,
property.
yeah, let's find a way to give you your beautiful home, and we can take some inspiration from that. Tell me what you love about these images and what I can use as a jumping off point. And that's my value that I'm going to add to you as the designer. And I can pretty much say that I'm not going to say every client, nearly every client that I have worked with has said, I never thought of that. This was so different from where we started, and not in a bad way. They are surprised at the things we come up with. And I think that's part of our job, is to say, indulge me a little bit and let me show you something that's inspired by where you're coming from, but gives you even more.
Yes, and will function for you and your family and work within your budget, which may not be what you found on Pinterest. Let's be real, folks. But instead of a custom wicker banquette wraparound situation,
I mean, I would
maybe they'll
love
just put
one,
up,
but
sure, but maybe they just get a wicker basket.
and that is probably the reality of a lot of stuff. Yes, totally. But yeah, I think that's our job, is to say, you showed me these materials you liked, or you showed me these textures you liked, and this is how we can take that and work it into a space that feels good for you. And then even thinking just one step further on Claire's question, I always love to start out with clients by asking them about what is something they saw in my portfolio that really stood out to them. And I don't do that because I want praise.
Come
I
on.
even though I love a little bit, but I really want them to understand that there's a connection between the work that I do and what I can provide for them, and that I want them to understand there's a link between my creativity and what they're getting, and that I'm not just here as an order taker. So I want them to identify something that was beautiful, or that they stuck out to them from my common design, language, and they want to see that in their space. Because it's possible that if they just want a designer, but they don't identify with anything that I'm doing, I may not be the designer that's best to work with them.
Right.
So, Claire, I hope that was helpful, and we'd love to hear more questions from any of you who are out there. We'll try to get to some on the air, and you can email your questions to us at hotyoungdesignersclub@gmail.com.
Okay, well, I think that is going to need to be a wrap on this week's episode of the
The One Room
HYDC.
Challenge. And next week, we're going to be asking the age-old question, does your brand suck? So tune in to find out and hear our ideas on how to be sure it doesn't.
Thank you guys for being here, and good to chat with you, Shaun.
Thank you all. Rebecca, I'm going to catch you on the flip side.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining this meeting of the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
If you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Check out the show notes there for links to things we talked about today.
We are keeping the conversation going on Instagram, so don't forget to like, comment, and follow at Hot Young Designers Club.
You can find Rebecca on Instagram at Studio Plum.
And you can find Shaun at Renstead Interiors. That's WRENSTED.
You're doing the music in your head, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah. Welcome to the club.
Okay.
Lady Gaga. Hello, hello, baby. Caught, I can't hear a thing.